All right, Rich, you can share quickly. Post. All right, cool. All right, so you have option to share now. You can just demo your dashboard.
Let me know if you guys can see my screen.
Yep, you can see.
So the name of my dashboard is Rich Win Event Log Dashboard. So I basically did a base and a post-process search. So this is the main search, which is right here. And then below I just included different panels of dashboards. So for the first one, I just did a number of events. And then for the other panel, I did number of info, ID, events that are not informational. And then I did a time track count by action, and then I did a chat count by app. So I can show you guys that real quickly. Also, I added an input for time picker, which is named time teller. So I can change that based on the time frame I want. So right now it's running on last 24 hours. So this is my original search. Index equals to my index, Richino underscore index, and then the host, which is my local machine, desktop underscore Richino. And then since when you first put the main search in the dashboard panel, it runs on the fast mode. So I had to run this pipe table star. So it would be verbose mode in order for some of the events to show. I don't know if I'm explaining that right. So I can confirm that. And then number of events, so basically all these panels are running with this search right here, with this main event search right here. So basically it's using one CPU. I think that's what SAR said in one of our classes. This is the search right here. I just did a stack count. And then it gave me the number of event. If I open this in a search, you guys will see what happens. Let me just show you all the searches I did before I go. So this just give me search info, then the stack count of the information, which is displayed right here. Basically the same thing for ID as well. Search ID, and then just give me the stats count for all the IDs. And then for events that are not informational, I just did a search not information, not info, and then just the stat count of all the of all events that are not informational. And then down below here, I just did a time check count by action, use null equals false, and use other equals false. And then these are the results for that one. And I did chart count by app. Same thing, use null equals false and everything like that. Let me go back up real quickly, cancel this. So basically what you will see if I click on the search, since it's the post-process search, is the whole search. So inside of this panel, you just send the stack count, but since it's running under this, let me edit it right. Since it's running under this event, you're just gonna see stack count. But once you open it in a search, this is the whole search that you see. So that's basically the dashboard I did. I don't know if I explained that right or not, but that's what I did. That's what I practiced.
Yeah, no, that's a good job. So click edit for me, Rich. So What do those lines mean right there whenever you see those right here? That line
Which
around.
one? These right here? These right here?
Yep.
I don't know.
So that one means the panel is hidden whenever you see.
Oh, okay.
Yep. So whenever you do an edit and you see these things around, it means that panel is hidden. Yep. So
Okay.
so when you click it, that's one of the reasons because it symbolizes that's hidden. Do you remember how you hid the panel?
Yeah. I just did I went to the panel and I did a depend.
Okay.
Where is it? Right here. So depend, and then I just said hide your face. That's the token that I named it as, and then this is the ID for the first panel, rich underscore base, and then this is the depend. This is the post process search that is running under this main event right here.
Okay. Okay.
That's it for my demo. I'll give you control back if no further question.
Anyone have any questions? Any questions? Good job, man. Did anyone else do a dashboard?
Hey, I gotta go. I'm sorry about that.
No worries. Did anyone else do a dashboard or panel?
Hey, you can tell you that.
No, which he's working now, so he has to get back to his duties. So let me share my screen, and if no one else did a dashboard, I'll just share mine, and then we can get to cracking, crack-a-lacking as always.
Here. Prof, it's Clovis.
Yeah, hey Clovis.
Yeah, I don't know, maybe it's just an outside of the class, but it's related to Splunk. I don't know if you heard about Cumulus compliance. It runs on Splunk.
Mm-hmm.
You've heard about it?
Yeah. You talking about the compliance app?
Yes.
Yeah.
Have you used it before, by chance?
No, it's proprietary. You got to pay for it, I believe. So if you go to Splunk base.
Any idea about anybody that has used it before? Any exposure? Anybody that's exposure to it?
Yeah. Well, I know the guy that built it.
Oh, please. I need it. We're actually using it. We're starting to use it where I'm working right now. So
you guys should have support for it though if you're using the app.
Mm-hmm.
Hello?
Yes.
Yeah, you guys should have support. I think it comes with support. How do you spell it? In QM. Yeah, it is. Yeah, the compliance app, right?
Yes.
Yeah, it's proprietary. You got to go through them to buy the app. So, visit the site and they'll basically. It's a nicely built app, you know. So one of the guys that built it was Chris Scott and his team, and what's the other guy's name? Carlo, and I think Trevor probably played a part in this also. Really smart guys there, but you guys should have support because as long as you pay for this app, you can get support from it. I mean, what issues are you facing?
They just want to start using it, and they're charging me. I mean, they're assigning me to it. So I'm just looking for anybody that can connect with that's used it before.
We'll go to YouTube. I'm gonna learn some stuff from there. You see some good stuff on YouTube about it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I think they did have a demo on YouTube about it. Yeah. So you should find that.
Okay.
So let me see YouTube. So Cumulus compliance app. So. Yeah, I think it's a Q compliance. Yeah, here's the demo of it. And then it looks like they have another compliance part here. So yeah, you got quite a few demos on here, man. Should be able to get some good things out of that.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Yeah, no worries. All right. So okay, cool. So I promised you guys last time I'll talk about what do you call it? I'll talk about the way you can use the search index or the macros rather to be able to define whether something is validated or invalidated. So this is how you would do that. So let me delete it and I'll just create a new example. So okay, so that's weird. Why can't I? Oh, that's why I was like, I know that's weird. Oh, is this something I've never looked at this? What do you guys see is missing here? You guys may be able to find out or not. So if I were to go here, it's an option that's usually there and it's not there. Okay, I see why. Okay, all right, makes sense. Okay. You see the delete option is not available for some of these here. So that's something you'll probably have to do within the back end, or possibly it may not be available to do so with the app. You can delete it, of course. There's ways to delete that, but you're gonna have to really try to delete that from your entire cluster, or it might replicate it again across. My invention, okay, we'll delete that. So some of these aren't available for you because they disable that option here. So you may have to either disable it if it's in use or something, and then delete it if it gives you that option. But it looks like it doesn't even when you disable it. So you probably have to remove that from the back end. So yeah. All right. So let me show you guys that option anyways. All right. So let's say we create a new macro that we did last time. So we'll create a new macro. It's going to be called, which front of that? We'll call this check buckets, right? So we'll call this check buckets. So we'll do index equals underscore internal. Then let's make sure. For internal. Then let's do source type equals Splunk D. Let's just check something quickly. We want to see if we get what we're looking for. So let's look for bucket IDs, bucket IDs, BID, bucket IDs, open buckets. How about that? All right, so we'll look for anything that's an open bucket versus a closed bucket. All right, so we'll grab that. So open buckets are basically when Splunk is still writing to a bucket. If you don't know what a bucket is, it's what exists inside of your indexers. So, when you get data that goes into index equals SARS index equals Tolu, whatever it is, data gets written into different buckets depending on where it's aimed at going. So if the bucket still is open, depending on the threshold that you've set to close the bucket, Splunk will tell you whether it's open or it's closed. So right now, we're going to look at open buckets. So we'll do that. So we say index equals underscore internal, source type equals Splunk D. Then we'll say, I'm sorry, open underscore buckets. Let's do open underscore buckets equals, let's do bucket number. True or false, we'll call that. So then this would be true or false is what we'll use as our argument. And then validation error here. So we're going to say is num. So it has to be a number. Is num is a function. So we'll say it has to be is a number. So and then what field we're going to evaluate for that is going to be true or false. And then we're going to say please enter a number, bro. All right. So we'll say this. Oh, I got one. All right, because I gave one argument, so I have to make sure my macro was looking at one argument. So we'll grab that. Then we'll do this. So then we'll do 0. Oh, private probably. Yes, of course. All apps, which is what I did last time. I don't know why I didn't do this time. Anybody can write it. It's fine. I'll write here. All right, let's do it again. Run me again. All right, so check buckets. All right, so let's see what it expands to. So open buckets equals 0. Oh, that's because I spelled source type wrong in here. Man, my spelling is really bad. C type index. Okay, cool. All right. All right, so if we rerun this again, you'll see it'll find all buckets that are open. So now it checks the buckets. If you see here, check buckets where the value is 0. So these are all open buckets. So then if we were to do false or something like that, something silly, it should throw out an error, say, bro, please enter a number, bro, as you can see here, because it checks a validator to see that function is accurate or not. So that's how that would work for validation. So whether it's a number, it's a true or false statement, and I think there's other evaluations that you can do as well, but typically that's what you want to do here. Use validations to check if it's evaluates to something that's that's true or not. So sometimes you may want to do an eval where it's like less than a specific number. So it may say, hey, make sure it's less than this number. So that's how that would work in this case. We could probably do something really complex. We can give that a shot. Well, before I do that, does this make sense so far? Any questions about this? All right, so it looks like you guys all got this. All right, sweet. All right, so everybody understands how to do validation on a macro. So if somebody says create a macro or a search that tells you how to validate, expression, you should know how to do that. So that's what they mean. Don't get super confused or anything like that. It's just literally what they're telling you. So let's try to create this little fancy macro. I don't know whether it's going to work or not, but let's see. So right now, we're going to do check buckets where it's, let's do something else, right? So we'll copy this again. Let's go back to search macros. And we're going to say, we're going to do new macro. We're going to say check buckets 2 this time. So check underscore buckets. We'll do 2. Actually, how do we use that? Yeah, we'll just use the first one. I got something we can run with that. Let's do check. So what I'm going to do then is basically evaluate something. So what I'm going to say is, let's evaluate something. So here we say 0. We're going to do stats count. After this, we're going to do stats count by stats count by event message. Let's see. So we'll do it. Oh, come on, man. Copy. We're going to do a stats count by event message. All right. So stats count by event message. So let's do a control V. All right. So event message. So then what it should look like is this. Let's give you the event messages over here. And then what we're going to say is validate expression. So we're going to say, and let's see if this will work. Eval. Let's do event message. Let's do this. Copy that. I'm going to say eval fake. Let's do eval event equals if event message not equal to this right here. We can copy it and paste. If eval, let's just say if it's equal to this, and we're likely gonna have to escape this, escape these characters. Actually, let's do a like. If like, I don't know. Let's keep it simple. So we'll do this. All right. So the like option allows me to do like a wildcard match, and I'll show you guys that in a few seconds. So event message equals that. Let's see how this works out for us. It may not work the way that I'm hoping it would work, but let's run this. All right, the operated event message. So it's operator at event underscore message if event message. Yeah, so it's complaining about this equals. It's so annoying. So with it's complaining about this with equal signs and stuff like that. Whenever you have that in eval or these kinds of events, you have to escape them. So if you don't escape them, and it may complain since I didn't give it a what do you call it? Since I didn't give it a validation. Let's see if it does or not. Yeah. So we gotta take this out, otherwise it's gonna complain. All right. Check buckets if the definition macro. Yeah. Let's redo this. Scope buckets. Oh, okay. All right. So this is actually forcing me to do the isnum field because it's expecting this to be a it's expecting it to be a string. So string isn't like a letter versus a number. So that's why. All right, come on. Why are you still complaining? Let me open this in a new app. This is not making any daggone sense. We just validated it worked, and then all of a sudden you're now complaining now. So this is the annoying part about Splunk sometimes. All right, so there are search bars of the first macro check buckets when it's expected to be a value expression that returns a string. No, it's not supposed to return a string. I literally told you we're supposed to run a number. So why are you complaining now? Is num true underscore false, true underscore false? I didn't misstate it. And let's get rid of this. Maybe that's why you're crying about something. No, why? This doesn't make any sense why you're crying now. Let's do one. How about that? Okay, so you validated that my validation works. So two. Why are you saying it should return a string? Okay, so this might be a bug or something because this makes no sense. Because it's saying that it should be a string, but then when you put a string in here, it complains that it should be what I basically tell it to be in here, that it should be a number. So this just doesn't make any daggone sense. Is num true underscore false? This is expecting. I wonder if, let me do a new one. Let's see if it complains about that. Search macros. Let's clone this guy. Do check. One. Open buckets. Yep. True false. True false is num. No, don't use an eval expression. Did I click that? Oh, let me change it to check buckets. Two S's. All right, so let's see if this is a bug. It's hidden. Yep. Yeah, there has to be a bug because that's silly. I literally just did the same exact thing. So it's a caching bug where you have to probably do a refresh or reload or something, but it's literally the same exact macro, just renamed, and it does the exact same functions. So um, yeah, that's very silly. Let's check. Let me make sure the eval validation is not. Oh, that might be the case. Let me check something. Because I use the eval, probably automatically selected that. And let's do buckets. All right, so stop. That's what it was. Okay, all right. So I was tripping. It was the when I did the eval. So if we do eval, eval, any. This is something that just doesn't make sense. Put something in there. Let me go back here. Let's try to use that. Let's see. Let's refresh this guy. Let's see now if we come back and refresh it. You guys didn't see me check that, did you? That was anybody paying attention? Yeah, because this was selected. Unless somebody was on the back end doing something that's logged in. But yeah, this was selected. The eval expression was selected. So, all right. Well, either way, this works this way. The eval statement that I want to work is not working because it was using, let's use something that doesn't have those crazy numbers. Okay, so this one might work here. So let's do this. So we're gonna do Splunk underscore server underscore group. Okay, so let's try this. So we're gonna say stats count by Splunk underscore server group. Okay. So if we do stats count by Splunk underscore server group, so this is what it'll look like, so you guys can see what I'm doing. So I'm running this, and then it's going to be one or two here. What I want to do essentially here is say, so it's doing a stats count by Splunk underscore server group. I want to see if this number, say eval, let's do, well, this one is the same. I want something that's actually going to be unique. Message, no, something unique. Date seconds, date minutes, message, no, something unique. All right, maybe host. Yeah, let's do host. That one's easy. Stats count by host. So we'll do host instead. So we're going to basically try to say, give us a list of the hosts. So we're going to do stats count by host. Then we're going to say eval logs are coming equals if host, let's see, if a host let's see if host is greater than if count rather. Count is greater than 1, let's do 10, and say we have logs, else say we don't have enough logs. So this is what this looks like. Oh. All right, so if it's greater than 10, we have logs. If it's not, we don't have logs. Let's do a greater number, something that makes, let's say 500. Maybe is anything that's over, that's under, let's do 3,000. I think that'd be good. Let's do, yeah, 3,000. Right. So if the logs are, if the count is greater than 3,000, we have logs. If it's not, we don't have logs. So that's what we're going to do here. So we're going to basically plop this in here. And then we're going to do a couple of variables in here. So the true or false, we're going to put here. We'll do something better. Enter 1 or 0. Let's run that. So got to enter 1 or 0. There's one thing over here. So then what we want to do is an eval. So actually, no, that's going to be annoying because I only have it 1 here. We're just going to keep that at 0. So we want to do an eval with this one. So we'll say number here. Number greater than 3,000. So we'll try to use this one and see if this works for us the way we're hoping. So what the hope is with this eval validation is if this number is greater than, or if this number is greater than 3,000, then it's going to say, yeah, you're good. If not, it's going to say you're not good. So there's another way to do this, but I'm trying a different way to see if this would be a good fit for you guys. We'll say, if not, please enter a number greater than 3,000. Sure. All right. So we're gonna say eval. Number is greater than 3,000. Actually, we might just do a where with this one. Let's see if the where works well with us for this one. So where we're greater than 3,000. It's greater than 3,000. Right. So in this case, we'll actually probably use the count. All right, save and let's test it. So let's give this guy a go. Search here. Go to our buckets. We can delete this guy right here. All right, so that's an operator count. Okay, numbers greater than 3,000. Oh, we got to select a 3. All right, so the phone valid bucket, the valid expression, and valid operator count greater The validation expression. Okay, so it's complaining about the validation, doesn't like it. So let's see. Val counts greater than 3. Okay, still doesn't seem to like that. All right, so that's probably not going to be a good fit. What I would do in this case then would just do a function like is greater, something like that, and we can go grab one of these here. Well, it sucks. All right, so you can grab any one of these functions to use in here. Is bool basically is it a boolean? Is it true or false? Is it an integer? So you guys know what integers are. Is it null? Null, if you're not familiar with like coding, is it blank or does it have some type of value in it? And is it, well, this one is not null. So does it have something in it? And is it a number? Is it X? And then there's one that I wanted to use, which I'm going to try to show you guys quickly for this. Where's that? Absolute. That's what I want. So Splunk. Absolute. Yeah, I think this is ABS, mathematical function. So here, so the ABS function basically allows you to say if it's absolute. So if you are back in the math phase, you know, absolute numbers have to be positive. So you can have like a negative integer or negative number there. So you would have to put something that's absolute. So we can do something like that, absolute here. And we do number. I don't have a backspace, so that's why I do it this way. All right, so absolute, so, okay, so we have that, and then let's say, so this should workforce, fresh, let's do, let's do -2. You know what? My math was off. So absolute, I think it makes it, it turns it to absolute regardless. I think that's why I did it. Okay, yeah, so if I do an expansion, I'm pretty sure it turns it into 2. If it's greater than, no, it still keeps it -2. Yeah, oh, it returns its absolute value. Okay. All right, so that's not the right one to give you. For no, I don't want that. Okay, I might skip this part, but you could use absolute, but the way that I'm using it is wrong. So this way is, it actually makes this value a positive integer instead of using the negative. So it makes it absolute. So anything you put negative, so I could put -88. and it's just going to look at it in a positive light anyway. It's still going to give you logs. But to me, it's not proper, because we're saying if this number, if these buckets are greater, because remember our eval expression says if it's still running. We're basically saying if our log count is greater than, if our count is greater than, in this case, if it's making this an absolute number, it should be 888, whatever number that we see here. That's what should be displayed. We have logs, and instead of saying we don't have logs. But if it's, to me, if it's counting this as a I don't know if this is making sense, guys, but if we're saying if -8, was that 8,800 or 88,882, if our count is greater than this negative number here, we have logs. Otherwise, we don't have logs. But since we're doing an absolute validation for it, then it should basically be looking at that as a positive integer for that. So what I'm thinking that it's doing for this, which I don't like, it's that it's looking at this number here as the actual number that it's registering against. But in our validation is saying make sure that it is an absolute integer. So it has to be positive. Well, if we put a negative here, it's not checking for a negative. All it's doing is transforming this guy to be a positive, like in memory, but it's not actually applying it to our macro. So I don't know if that makes sense, but it's not doing what I want. I'm wanting this number to be a positive number as a check validator. But what Splunk is doing, it's saying, I have a number here, it's -8882. I'm doing an absolute validation on it. I'm going to say this number is positive. So if somebody puts -800,000, I'm going to say it's positive anyway, but I'm not actually validating that. I'm just saying it's positive, but then the user's validation that they're trying to do is not working for the absolute in this manner. So hopefully that makes sense, guys. I sort of used a lot of time on that function. All right, let's forget that for a second. Let's go to another command. So another command I like to use is range map. We'll give an example on here, and we'll get into, what time is it? In about 6 minutes, we'll get into cluster master stuff as well. So range map. So this one comes with an add-on, a visualization that you can use for it. And I always use this example because I always forget like the syntax for it. It has like a specific syntax you have to use. But range map essentially allows you to color certain fields to be a certain way. So in this case, we'll look at it. So it says set range to green. So the field it's looking at, you name the field, and then if the count is between whatever count is looking for, it gives a number. If it's that, it gives a number. If it's that, it gives a number. And default of gray. So that's what it's doing here. So let's grab this here and just pipe this into our current search over here. So let's pipe that here. And then since we don't have the date field, we're going to use count instead. And then we're going to say, let's do 215 minutes because we don't need to search all that crazy time frame. All right, so then you see here, then it gives you red, green, whatever. So you can use this as a range to start actually doing a coloration. And I don't know if I have that visualization, but I can see. But let me go back to this quickly. So you do the field, which you want that it's doing a counter on. And then you do a range within here based upon the coloration that you want. And I believe it has all the color spectrums on here as well. Now, I don't know if you can do something like crazy, like magenta or something like that. I'm not sure, but I usually use like baseline colors like red, blue, green, the colors of the rainbow type of deal. But if you want to do like, highlight turquoise or something like that, I don't know if Splunk does that. All right, but all right, let's find that app that uses this. There's an app that you can use to get the colors that you want. So let me see. You can download that quickly. I think it's the carousel visualization. So grab this quickly. So, you know, sometimes you may see you want to see like different tokens and whatnot. So that's where this would come in handy. So let's go look at this to make sure we have it. Let's go to, let's do, so let's see if we got that. Which one is it? Real-time location, carousel visualizations. So this one, I think it's the way that we want table value unit caption range. Okay, yeah, so this is it. All right, so let's see if we can get this to work the way we want. So we'll do table star, it's just table star. Gives us what we're looking for. So carousel, let's not here. Okay, let's move this over here. It didn't load. All right, there we go. So now you guys see that. So then it tables it, and then it gives you you can see how some of them are colored and some of them aren't. So it's actually, oh, this is 24 hours. All right, that's why it's giving us all this. Let's do something that's more diverse, right? So 1 to 400 is that. Then 400 to 700, and then I'll do 1500 to, actually, I'm sorry, 701 to 1200, and then let's do, let's make this 5,000, whatever. 1,000. Let's run this and see how this looks for us. So we run this and we table and we look at it. So now you start seeing the numbers, and as they go up, you should start seeing some of these numbers change and the colors and all that stuff. So when you have like a dashboard for a SOC or for whoever, and you want to like see this visualization, how this works, this is a way to kind of highlight stuff and see like when the numbers fluctuate, and to see how, you know, you have changes in metrics and stuff like that, and you can start highlighting these things as they populate. So if you get a use case where they say we want to see colors when something drops to 0, we want to see that highlighted to red or bright purple. This is a way to do that. All right. Any questions about this? All right, cool. You guys do not have a lot of questions. All right, it is 10 o'clock. There actually is one more function I want to show you guys quickly, and then we can move on. So the other function would be, let's do this. So we're gonna do index equals, let's do main. And then we're gonna do let's do stats values source type as source type. And then we're gonna say list. Say list this guy. So list and values are a little bit different, and you'll see how. List basically gives you everything, and it gives you like, regardless of the number of times it happens, it gives it to you. Whereas values gives you the unique values for each time it happens. So let's actually do user. So user, then count. Count by host. We'll do that. All right. So then you see here, it gives us a list of all the users that happen, and you see the same users happen multiple times. So sometimes if you want to, run it this way, you want to say, hey, I want to see the number of times a user appears, regardless of it, of the actual number. I just want to see it every time they appear. I want to see that in the list. This is how you would do that. Whereas the values gives you a unique value for each specific value that it sees. So if you see clo here, and here you only see clo once because it does a values versus a list function. So hope that makes sense. And then to add on top of that, we're going to do an eval. Let's do source type. Let's do, let's say this second source type equals the index. So multi-value index basically says this field right here has multiple different values. What I want to do is grab, whatever value I want from it to be able to give me what I want. So I'm going to say source type. Then let's say second. Let's see if it grabs what we want here. So we see here, it grabs the third actually versus the second, because this starts at the 0 marker. So when you are coding or anything like that, and you create arrays and stuff like that, it starts at the 0 marker. So this would be 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, versus it being 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So it starts at 0 and it gives you what you want. So what we're doing with the eval here is saying, I see we have a bunch of multi-values here, but I want to be able to strip out the second value from my values that I listed here, or in this case, my third value, and give me that into a new field, and then show me that. So let's say you have a client that says, I want to see the third value for all of these different hosts. I want to see what happens in their third event, or at this specific time range. So you can use that to be able to create a new field that just looks at that specific time range for each host. So if you did like a values by each host and then you want to see that, you can do that way. So we can do, in this case, values user. Then it gives us it this way. Then in here, if we said we wanted to grab, let's say, we want to grab maybe the third user based upon, a specific time frame or the count, anything like that, you can use the multi-value index to be able to grab that and give you what you want. That's just one of like 90 maybe plus different functions in here. There's so many. Let me see if I can grab you guys another one, and we can get started in 2 seconds. The index. Any questions about this so far? here's the documentation behind this. So the way this works is when you're reading a documentation is literally, it tells you what it's looking for. So here, commands X. This function takes a search string or field that contains a search string X and returns a multi-valued field containing a list of commands used in X. So eval X equals commands, then search foo, whatever stats by. So if you have something that has like a bunch of different commands inside of it, it'll tell you all those commands that are there. And then the append function. So you can use this to append something to different multi-value fields. You can do a count of the multi-value fields that it has. So the way this would work, very simple. So we can literally probably just scrape this right here. What you'll do is do eval and just paste this. So that I already copied the eval part. Eval, we'll say count of fields in source types, not fields, values. Counts of values in source types, and then we just give the field we want. So this case would be source type, and it should give us what, 5 values, right? Or 6 values. Sorry, forget that. That's that 0 thing. So yeah, it gives us the values that we have here, and then tells us, you know, there's 1 for these guys, and then you see it doesn't create a MV index for this. It doesn't create this one because there's only one. There's only one. What do you call it? Only one value in here. If there's multiple values, then it will give us that. So that's why it doesn't give us, you know, what we're looking for there. So let's say star underscore index. See if we did that. See if we get multiple different values in this case here. Come on, buddy. Come on. Chug along. All right, so here you start seeing it gives us Splunk D, one event logs. It's the second, well, in this case, the third source type is the C's here. So you can start seeing like how this would be able to be valuable when you're looking for like unique things and like tables and stuff like that. You can start grabbing those values that way. And then there's functions where you can do too to say it has to, you know, be something like this or match like that. Speaking of which, I'm sorry, I'm gonna give me another 2-3 minutes because I'm going to give you guys another example of the like function as well, because I did promise to give you guys that. So any questions about MV count, MV index, and when to use that or how to use that at all? Any people here actually? Okay, so there are people here. Okay. All right, so looks like no questions. All right. So, all right, let's continue. All right, so the next one, or the last one I'll show you, then I'll get back to the triaging, is going to be like. So the like function. So let's go here. Let's do like. So like, why did I just do like? That's going to come up. Like, yeah, it is text pattern. All right, so here's like. So, where you at? Like. All right, so the beauty about like is that it matches, it's like a match function. It matches basically like the whole line, or it can match it based upon like something that's unique. So what we can do is something like this, right? You see here, this is doing like a, and I'll copy so you guys can see what it's doing here. So we'll grab this. Let's say, yeah, that's fine. We can delete that. So we'll do something like this. So we'll say index equals main. Then we'll do let's count by source type. Let's do source. All right. So we got our sources here, a whole bunch of different sources. So then what we can say is like eval, we'll say serially owned source. Well, we'll say we'll eval type of source equals, and we'll just destroy this. So we're going to say if like, and then the field that we want, in this case, is going to be source. And then what we're going to say then is if the source is, let's say win event log security, right? So if the source is win event log security, or let's just say win event log this way, then we say Windows based. And if not, probably not Windows based. So then what you see that happens then is it does a match of any time that it finds win event log, and then a percent sign basically is like, in this case, it's used as a wildcard. So it saw win event log application, win event log security, win event log system. And it says, hey, these are Windows based, but this probably isn't. But that's because win event log doesn't start at the source here. So if we wanted to do something that's more probably realistic, we'll say, let's do win. Yeah, we'll do win. And in this case, what it should match on then, actually, it's not going to match on these guys because we didn't do a percent in the beginning here as well. So let's do that also. So we do a percent on both sides. Then you see now it matches like the wildcard would do. This is like, when event log, these are all Windows type activities, but you typically won't do something like this because there's a chance that win could probably be in like other source names or whatever, or something like that. You never know. It could be like WinStar or something like that. It could be something that's, unique, but just showing you guys that example that you can use here. Then this way now you can do a stats count by Windows based stuff that you want. Let's say you have like, a bunch of sources that are like 4,000 and you want to see all your sources that are Windows based because you're not sure if it's like, if it's coming from Windows-based systems. Maybe you can do like a drive or something like that. In this case, it won't be like it won't be very helpful because you have win event log stuff here. But let's say you see something that comes from a specific drive, then you could say, comes from Windows-based C drive, right? So then you have something like that. So then now you can look at all your sources that come from C drives versus D drives versus whatever. There's like a bunch of use cases and implications that you can take from this, but this is giving you examples of like how the like function works. There's so many other functions that I've used over time over this match and if like it's so many different ways you can use these, and it's just too many for me to probably do for this class, but yeah, it's a lot that you can do with this. I'll try to go over more as we continue. If you have like ones that you want to know about, like cider matches, like how to match things like that, let me know. But it's just a lot, and you won't memorize it all. I mean, I work with PS guys who've been in the field for years. I mean, they forget some of these functions and how they work, and just because you don't use it all the time, So anyway, that's that. Any questions about that before we get into monitoring console stuff? All right, no one has questions. Cool. All right, so let's get into MC stuff. All right, so monitoring console. Shoot, I hope I'm recording. Yes, I'm recording. All right, so monitoring console. So the MC, last time we stopped at, I believe, indexing. We did performance. I show you guys how the deployment, what to look at on here. This is a quick review. If you're looking at indexing performance by instance, take a look at these different values that pop up in here. If this goes up to 15, 20, whatever percentage you see on here, that means that it's indicating that it's seeing blocked queues. And more than likely, those block queues exist somewhere. You come down here, make sure that you have all queues selected. And then I usually do like the 90 percentile just to see at 90% of the time what, what exactly does it look like. And then you can see here, the max is not usually great, but you sometimes may want to see that just in case you want to see, okay, am I getting blocked at any point in time anywhere at the maximum level? Meaning like data is just flowing through at the maximum level. Am I seeing any issues being, um, filtered down through my systems? All right. So index clustering is the next tab. So index clustering tab, we'll look at status and we'll look at some of the things to look for here. Ooh. Oh, well, we can't because I don't have an indexer cluster. Duh. But anyway, if this were to be available for you, you can look at, the search count. You can look at like the status, what's up or down. If I had multi-site, it can look at the different sites because you can do multi-sites there. And then the search head itself, then you can look at, you can do a search based upon like the different search heads and whatnot. And then the indexes count, you can look at specific indexes and then you can see whether it's searchable, whether it's not searchable, replication factors and stuff like that, and see, other issues that may be um, playing into that. And then the peers, you can look at any specific peers you want. So this basically it's a really good screen for you to look at when it comes to your cluster, your indexers, how they're performing, and in terms of like your buckets to see whether all your data is fully searchable or whether it's not, right? All right. So next thing is the service activity. So again, we're not going to see much because I'm not clustered, so you're not going to see anything really. So if I were clustered, you'll be able to see like your warning, your errors and stuff like that. And then here, your snapshot, your historical, you'll see this in many different tabs. So the snapshot basically says at this specific time frame, I want to see what's going on here. Whereas, of course, historical says in the past, what's been happening in my environment. And then, of course, all gives you at a specific time frame and then everything in the past as well as current, what's going on. It's good to isolate it sometimes to be able to look at, what's happening at a single time frame, whether it's early in the mornings to see, what's going on versus historical to see what happened, prior to, the morning spikes that you were getting. Fix up tasks, these are the same things that you'll see when you go to an indexer. On a custom master, you'll see the buckets, and you'll see like bucket status and whatnot to see, what's going on there. And then those bucket statuses will basically allow you to see, what's happening across your cluster. Are things being fixed up? Are you having issues when it comes to excess buckets? Are you having issues when it comes to your buckets not rolling over in time? So what I mean by rolling over is whenever you get data into Splunk, remember how I said that it needs to reach up to a certain threshold. So let me show you guys a thing for that. Let's do, what am I looking for? Lucid chart. Lucid chart. Lucid chart. Come on. All right. Lucid. Here we go. Another blank document. All right. So let's do buckets. Buckets. All right. So we got a nice little bucket over here, right? So we'll do text area. So in here, we're going to say, firewall, Windows, Linux logs, I don't know, web server logs, malware logs, authentication logs, AWS, Azure. You got all these different logs that are coming in, right? So what happens is each of these logs are going to be placed into one bucket. They're going to be placed in this bucket. So regardless of where the source is, as the source is coming in, it's going to create a bucket for it. So the way you look at a bucket in Splunk is this. So let's go to search and reporting. All right, come on, bro. All right, so db inspect is a command that allows you to inspect your buckets, your indexed buckets. So db inspect, and then what you can do is you can select an index. You can do a span, and I believe there's other options as well, like corrupt only and things like that. So what you can do, you can click this more, and it gives us what options we can use here. So corrupt only, if we want to see just corrupt buckets. If we want to see the span, the time frame, hours, weeks, and then number, log, and then the time format. If we want the format. Okay, somebody is chatting me up. Okay. All right, so what we're going to do is index equals, let's do Chino. We can use wildcard here as well. So then we do a DB inspector on Richino. We want to see within the last 24 hours what's been going into Richino's index. So then we look over here, right? See, we got a GUID ID, we got the bucket ID here. So then what we do is we can do a search for this specific bucket ID, and then we can see how Splunk is handling this. But what happens is there's a whole bunch of data that gets sent into the buckets, right? So then these buckets that are sent in, as they're sent in, they're being set to hot, So on the back end, you'll see like hot V1 or whatever it is. Then you get, version info on what's happening there. So as the data is coming in, it's telling you what's being sent in here. So in here, if we can do, yes, we can. But basically, if we could, it would basically has like the name of the bucket, the GUID, and all the other stuff that it exists on, and what's being sent there. So as it's being written to disk, what happens is there's a certain time frame until that bucket closes. So Splunk allots you up to a certain number of buckets, or allows you to get up to a certain size. So if this buckets, you set your buckets, your hot buckets, to be up to 300 gigs or 150 gigs, or it's not going to be that much, of course. You're not going to want your buckets to be that big. I think by default, I think it's like 10 gigs or something like that. But if you set your buckets to be up to a certain size, and Splunk reaches that size, what it does then, it closes its bucket. So all the data that's coming in now gets rewritten to a new bucket. And then that new bucket then gets saved somewhere else. And then that, it basically completes that cycle and it starts it back over again. So that's how the buckets get saved. And then once it rolls from this hot bucket status, so what happens is it comes here first. And then what we're going to do is fire. Fire, like literal fire. All right, so change this to be hot bucket. So your data comes in, it's a hot bucket. All right. So then what happens is this same bucket rolls down now. And let's do AROW So then this guy rolls down here now, and it becomes a warm bucket. Do a warm here. Sun. How about that? Sun. No, just sun. The sun. The sun. Come on. Dude, this thing is like so laggy. My computer's like, it's really slow right now. I don't know what I have opened. You know what? I think I know what it is. Citrix is probably killing my memory. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's Citrix probably. Yeah, it is Citrix. Log out of Citrix quickly. Pretty sure this guy's killing my memory. Sorry about this. We got a VEI session. I need to get out of. Yes, disconnect. Right. So whenever that disconnects, it should be faster. All right, so let me see what else I have opened. Sorry about this. My computer's really laggy. It's not this laggy. 99% sure it's this guy right here. All right. Give it a few more minutes. Hopefully that kills it. OMG, bro. There we go. All right, there we go. Much faster. Sweet. Yeah, Citrix was destroying my memory, man. Activity, man. It's just because right now it's like, okay. Come on, man. Come on, bro. All right. I'm gonna have to close this this tab. Oh my goodness. I don't know what this thing is eating, but it's killing my memory. Okay, close this. Let's close it, close it, close it. And I also have a video being uploaded too, so that might not be wise. Large video. So I got quite a few things going on. Sorry, my computer's never been this slow. Come on, man. Bruh. All right, let's kill some processes, man. All right. Okay, what can we kill? All right, Citrix, you gotta stop. I want you to keep running. Adobe, I don't really need you up right now either. All right, Skype, why are you even still installed on here, Skype? And yeah, I think that's good enough. All right, so kill quite a few. All right. Much better. All right. All right, so I guess I could take a shot at loading that back up quickly. Seems to be much more doable. chart. Okay. All right, Lucid seems to be cooperating with me now. All right, so as I was saying, hopefully do a search. Sun. All right. We get the hints. So here, this is now warm buckets. So warm. So when this goes to warm, what happens is this data up here gets, there's not this data, but this section up here now, there's a new bucket that gets generated with new bucket ID and all this other stuff. And that rolls to warm as well later. And then once it finishes rolling to warm, it's going to roll to cold after that. So then it goes down here. Same old, same old. Grab this guy right here. Oh, goodness. Could be you. Looks like it might have been this guy that's also causing me problems. There's a lot of memory this thing is using. All right, well, I'm gonna stop this because I don't want this to be a hindrance. But basically it's gonna roll to warm. And then after warm, it's gonna roll to cold. So it goes through that whole cycle. As it continues that cycle, you'll see here that based on a state, so hey, this guy's still hot. So if we were to do index equals star, and then actually, let's keep that index. Let's do Control Z here. And let's run something, let's say relative, let's say, let's do date range. Let's do before, I don't know, let's say maybe a month ago, something like that, right? All right, so a month ago, what we'll see then, what we should see is now you see that it's rolled to a different state. Now the state is warm. And then of course, if you search further, the state's gonna be cold because the data is rolling based upon the range that I've set in my environment. In my case, my data doesn't, after it rolls off to cold, it doesn't just get destroyed. I have it going to Smart Store Index to my S3 buckets, and I can basically look at that in my S3 buckets to be able to view that. So this is how we were able to inspect bucket IDs and whatnot to see what's there. The GUID refers to the actual indexer that's holding that data. So that's the GUID that it exists on. So if you ever see GUID, that's where it's talking about what it exists on. So what you'll see here is the bucket ID, blah, 0, an IB, blah, 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 B, A1B. And then that refers, as you can see here, to the GUID. So it's, hey, the first bucket or 0 bucket, 2, 3, and then another bucket was created somewhere. So it refers to these things. So this right now is being stored in Richino's index, has the GUIDs and whatnot that we need. But what we can do then also is, let's do this. Let's do a search here. Copy. Then we'll do index equals star. And then we'll do search. This might be unique in his case. Let's do path equals. Let's just do all time for this. So we see here, so this one's just unique to Richards. So if we were to do this kind of search, you see here there's like multiple bucket IDs that get placed into a specific slot, but then you have like multiple different data sources that you'll be able to garner from that. So Any questions about this or like how to use DB Inspect or when to use it? Okay. So quickly, for those who have backend access and stuff, I'll show you this quickly as well. If you're taking Debo's class, he may be showing you this on your end as well. SH. So we'll do SSH to our indexer. So cd opt Splunk, etc, etc var. Actually, hold on. df-sh. Okay, I put mine in data. So typically it's opt Splunk var, var lib, and where your buckets are, but mine is under here. So Splunk underscore storage. So this is where my buckets are at. So if I were to go to, I think we're looking at Ricino's. Shoot. All right. You see I go in here, and then you can see these buckets are well laid out back here. So if I do pwd, it's under the name of the index, and the this is for DB refers to your hot buckets or your warm buckets. So it's hot or warm in here. Then in the code, it has its own code DB. With Smart Store, you don't really need to worry about code or frozen because we don't really use that as much. Really, we send that stuff to AWS, to whatever storage device you use. So if we go here, you see there's nothing in here. But if you're using the traditional storage, you'll see data in here. All right, so that's that. All right, let's continue on. It's 10:39. So clustering service, you can troubleshoot buckets and whatnot, but you can use that in conjunction with your DB inspect command. All right, so let's go to indexes and volumes. So indexes and volumes, and we're looking at the first tab, which is going to be, come on. Yeah, I really got to delete some stuff. Oh my goodness. 100%. That's not good. 100%. That's not good. Yeah, so we're gonna have to delete some stuff for sure. All right. Yeah, so I gotta get rid of a few things. All right, I'll fix that on my own. All right, so the index is volume and instance. So in here, again, it's indexing, indexes volumes, and then this is your instance is just that one server or one server. So in here, I only have one indexer, so it's only going to show that. If you have multiple indexers, it's going to show you that. And then this one is event indexes only, so indexes that only have events. And then all index types. So whether it has it or not, we're going to show it anyway, right? So we're just going to keep with just the stuff that has event indexes. So we'll go with that. So in here, I'm trying to think of what would be valuable for you guys to learn from here. So the snapshot gives you a total of your data. We have right now I have a total of 82 gigs across all my indexes for this specific server. So if you wanted to do a totality of all your data across all your environment, you would have to basically tally up everything that you have in your environment to do that. There's also another easier way to do that. using a search. But right now, method that I use typically is like doing a tally, what I see here to be able to grab that for me. And then it gives you, of course, the count and then the buckets that you have. And this is per indexer. So this is not going to be a totality of everything that you have, but this is per indexer. All right. So here we see our indexes. It sees the data age, sees the index usage. It sees like home path, code path, total events, and then the number of buckets that it has or has had. So here, the thing to sort of notice here or to try to take note of is the data age versus frozen age. So whenever you do your retention policies, it's good to come here to validate that those are working. So in here, it's telling me now that the oldest data I have is 137 days old. But my retention policy for frozen is 30 days. So you may be wondering, okay, so why do you have freaking 137, your data being 137 days old and you have frozen time range for 30? The reason, because is some events that are populated are in relation to older logs. So it may be something that's appeared in the past. And then also it depends on how you have your frozen time period calculated. So in here, the first value based on the age of the oldest event, which is this that I just talked about, and the second value based on the frozen time period in seconds. So depending on how you have your retention calculated to be dropped off based on hitting a certain milestone, you can say, hey, if this gets to 488, what do you call it? 488 gigs, roll off. Right now, this is only 17.1. So it's just going to keep storing data because I don't even think I have a frozen whatever set for my stuff. Well, I don't think I enforce a frozen value over my index usage. So it technically should be rolling off of the 30-day based upon it. So if I were to force roll it, it should roll off the 137 and it should be equal back to 30. But sometimes it takes the storage value. Now time takes precedence over your sizing. So if you reach a specific size first, what Splunk is going to do then is going to roll that data automatically to the next stage. It's going to say, hey, I reached the data storage before I got to the size that you told me to roll. So I'm just going to roll to my next phase. So that's that. All right. And again, this is in relation to having a frozen whatever. And remember, in my case, I have also Smart Store. So my events are stored in Smart Store, and I basically have to set a policy in Smart Store to evict those buckets and to destroy them from Smart Store. I don't have that policy set right now. So that's another reason, likely more than anything, that mine is not taking precedence. Because I'm not telling Smart Store to destroy those buckets in AWS or, in your case, whatever your remote storage system is. So, yeah, that's that. And then by default, Splunk's frozen age is 5 years. So this is what that equals to, I believe. So if we were to do a calculation on this, it should equal to like 499.99 or something like that, I believe. So let's do seconds to years. 6 years. My apologies. So it's 6 years. So 2,184 seconds equals to 6 years. So that's what it's set to. Or is that even 7? Yeah, 6.9. So that would be rounded out to 7 actually. And that's strange because I actually thought it was less than that by default. But yeah, it's looks like it's set to 7-year retention period. Okay, and then by default, it's set to 500 gigs for your sizing. So if you don't if you create just an index, just like, go into settings and you create indexes. So if we go here, matter of fact, let's do it on another search tab. Go to settings and we click indexes. You'll see by default, if I create it, it's going to be at 500. That's the max size that's by default it gives you. So that's the same sizing that you'll see over here. So it rounds it to 488.28, but essentially it's 500 once you create it, and you'll see that populate. Actually, no. 48, I don't know why it gives me that. This may be baseline, because this one is giving me the right index. And I know you guys didn't do yours 48. So matter of fact, I want to do a test. Let's do SAM index 2. And let's do well, that's dumb actually, because this is on the prod index here. But we can actually create it here and see. Let's do, come on. Oh, I'm not even on. OpenPath, SSH to your guy over here, and then let's do sudo su add. All right, so we'll add another index. We'll call this, I gotta do like the weird way to go at the end of the index. Right? My right button doesn't work, so we'll call it testing index. Right. Okay, so create a testing index. And let's see if it gets recognized by this guy quickly. Okay. So then there it is, testing index. Yeah, so yeah, it's weird because so this one creates it at 488.28, but then the new index is so I believe what's happening is if we do on a front end, it's creating it at a 500 gig standard, but on the back end, it's rounding it out to 48.28. So I'm not sure why Splunk does that, to be honest, but that seems to be the case here, where you create something on a front end, it creates it differently, which to me is just very silly why it's doing it this way. But anyway, that's where you get this at. But then a lot of these I created on the front end, and it gave me the right value. And I think I had the students do that. Everybody create their own index on here anyway. All right. Any questions so far on this? 10:50 now. Just chugging along. Okay. All right, so volumes bit will give you based upon the volume, so the sizing and whatnot will give you that. Why is mine not showing up actually? So, let's see why mine doesn't give me anything. Oh. It's larger. Rest, yep. Data volume, fields plus. So let's open this up in a new search to see why mine is not giving me anything. Let's start stripping this guy away. All right, so give me something for this guy. Then, yep, max storage. Okay, so total size. So, oh shoot, let me do that. Where's total size at? Title. I don't see total size. Let's see if it's not a post-process search. So fields plus, looks like it's adding that. And then round, okay, so it looks like it adds that. And then, so total size, max size, and volume path adds those. And DMC volume, if is not null, title. So if this is not null, for title, otherwise put the data.name. Okay, that's DMC volume. Okay. And then okay, so yeah, this is where it kills it. Actually, never used the XOR function. It's cool. All right, so mine, it dies over here. So it looks like I don't have the sizing that it's looking for on mine for data Splunk storage. Oh, you know what? This is probably a function of Smart Store. I've actually never looked at this with my Smart Store configuration. So all of you guys should have yours, but I think this is a function of Smart Store. So the first value, so the max volume data size. So this one is not, I believe this is deprecated feature that doesn't really matter with Smart Store. So you won't see that. Yeah, so that's actually a feature I didn't really think about. There's a Smart Store functionality that we'll show you guys in about 2 minutes. So volume usage by indexes and directories. So, that's very self-explanatory, indexes and directories. An historical chart. So this one gives you metrics based upon what you're collecting. So bucket count. Then you can aggregate it, average, minimum, whatnot. So see here the indexes, what they're collecting, and you can look at it over time, what's collecting what. So it looks like most of the buckets are being spread out over here. So you can look at this to see where your buckets are mostly falling into. Right. And then oftentimes that relates to what's your biggest data collection point too. All right, so that's that. Let's go into Smart Store now, actually. So Smart Store, I'm going to give a class about it on Friday, but essentially Smart Store is a way for Splunk to store your data from the non-traditional method that I talked about before, where instead of rolling from hot to warm to cold and all that, and frozen, it doesn't use the code frozen anymore. It just uses hot and warm. And then once it's hot and warm, it technically stays warm forever because it stays into your Smart Store now. So Smart Store is able to call that anytime it wants. So on here, last 4 hours. So idle means no remote activity has happened in the last hour. So there's no idle. So that means that stuff is still happening. I don't remember what offline means, but to me it doesn't look good. Let's do 24 hours and see. I have offline activity. It still shows offline. I'm not sure why. I have to investigate that. But typically you'll see like a green or whatever tab that shows you what's online as it's like it's actually happening. So mine is weird. So all times he's still probably gonna be offline if the latest is offline, probably. Yeah. Okay, so I gotta investigate that, but typically online, offline, you'll is what you'll see there, and of course, idle is not being used at all. Idle means no remote activities have happened last. So okay, all right. So when you're and it literally it does a self explanation here. When your buckets are downloaded and when they're uploaded. It basically it tells you what's happening in your environment. So right now, it seems like a lot of my buckets are being uploaded, and that's a good thing. So that's why I don't get why it's showing me as offline, as my buckets are being uploaded to S3. And then as I do older searches that are not in memory for a Smart Store, it downloads those buckets from the remote storage. So if that stuff doesn't exist in memory, and I'll talk about that at the class on Friday. That doesn't exist in memory. It would basically have to pull that down and download that bucket locally, and then keep that locally on cache. So that's what it talks about up here as well. And then high download rates are a negative indicator of cache health. So if you're always downloading stuff, it means that, hey, you are not keeping stuff in memory as you should. So that means as Splunk is processing this stuff in its brain, it keeps it for a certain amount of time until it evicts it. So instead of using a hot, warm, cold method to evict, it does a cache system in which it evicts the stuff from memory. All right, it's 10:58. Let me see. Deployments, no, we'll stop at Smart Store. Many of you don't even have Smart Store, so that'd be helpful to keep going through that. Let's go through inputs. So if I had a HTTP event token that I'm using, it would be able to tell me like the usage of that token, how that's working, what's not working with that token, things like that. It would be able to tell me. So this is one way to come in, check on that. And then on the deployment as well, I'll be able to tell you. And I don't think I have any tokens I'm using right now anyway. But if I were to use a token, this would tell me basically like my events and stuff that are coming in based on that token. So I don't really have anything I'm using now for that. And then if you have network input that's coming in, you can check here to see how your data is working in regards to that. So it tells you there were no reverse DNS warnings within the last hour. So if you have DNS issues where you're not able to do reverse lookups and stuff like that, or your pointer records are not, associated the right way, it would tell you what's going on there. Then down here, the throughput and forward account. So basically telling you like your streaming forward account is coming in. So gives you that. And then whenever you see this starts elevating too much, that's an issue. If you start seeing this throughput go over the count like continuously, then that's a big problem. If you have spikes here and there, that's fine, but make sure it's not consistent. All right, so I'm going to stop there. It's 11 now. I'm going to answer Rufus's question, or the answer I asked to Rufus, unless anyone has any questions. So when the question I posed to the class, rather, not to Rufus.
The KV store, right?
Yeah, yep. All right.
Was the first answer, my query, was that right? Or I didn't think I don't know if it was right or not, but when you were talking about if someone says that, hey, they can't see data or something like that. Oh no, they wanted to see when a host is not receiving data or something like that, right?
Right. So this one would give you more of like a the last time it came in, but it wouldn't be like an alert though. I wouldn't set that up as an alert. So what I would probably do, so if we were to run this, the query you gave me, we'll run that.
Yeah, I was gonna say if you can go over that one and then the KV store one, that would be great.
Sure. So we'll run the query. So we do this, and then we'll do index equals Chino, since we've been using yours. Source type equals star, host equals star, and then we'll run that, right? All right, so then your function, area invalid, the arguments to relative time are invalid. If relative time underscore now. Trying to think. So you're trying to say if now, I would probably take this out. Let's see. So open, just open once, should it be enough? Close. So now, oh, we got to do something, right? Actually, let's see what you're trying to do in the first place. So what are you trying to do here with this one? Because I see if relative, it's you do an if function, but there's no else option.
Okay. I might have. Yeah, I don't think I did it right. But what I was trying to say is if the host, if the host does pretty much if the host doesn't report now, or
It's,
is if it's less than now, then that's the last time that it reported. Then, right?
yeah, I see what you're trying. Okay, so let's do.
Yeah.
Let's do. So you're saying, Richie. Oh, that's because there's no tag on here. All right. So Richie's. We have one host. So we'll say this right. So you're saying last active time is going to be underscore time, which is now. So we should see a field here called last active time. So it gives us that in epoch time. So then you then do a eval of the last time. You're saying that if the last underscore, if you're basically trying to say if now is greater than the last active time, what we would do then is say, I would do this. I would table this first. So I would table. Well, you do it already at the end here. Let's do this before. So let's table this. Then, so we say, if now is greater than this, so we'll say missing, and else host active. So let's run this, right? See if this gives us the function we're looking for. All right, so, and then, so this one I would probably change it status. Then, now, just want to see how that works. So then, let's status. We'll see both the last active time and then also the status. All right. And then we're going to do also current time. It's going to be now. So then, because we want to make sure that that's actually missing. So what we'll do, oh, I forgot to do current time too. So last active time then. T here. So what we want to do then is make sure that it's actually extracting the way we want. So we'll do a convert.
Hey, I have a question.
Sure.
Why inside of the status equals if now, why inside of that parenthesis there's nothing in it and the search is still running?
Now is a function. Yeah, so now is just a function in itself that says now with a close and open, it says this is the time now. So it's interpreted as like the time has happened like at this second.
So nothing should be inside of that parenthesis?
You don't need an argument for this because this is a unique function. You don't need anything for that.
Oh, so every time you use that function, you have to put a parenthesis? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, so yeah, this is the way this function works. You have to do it this way.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
So we're gonna do a last active time for this guy, and then C time, time. Okay, so the last active time for this was 8:26, 23:06. The current time is 23:07, but yours, you're basically saying that this is missing because right now you're saying it's missing because it hasn't reported in like looks like a minute or so. So I wouldn't use that per se, just because it, you have hosts that don't report for, sometimes hours, um, or sometimes even days, depending on the logs that the way that it comes. Some hosts just send weekly. So it would depend on the threshold. If you're expecting something to report every minute or every second, well, let me say every second, because this one is basically doing it like every single minute, and your function is looking at like the time now. So if it doesn't see it now, it said, "Hey, this guy hasn't reported," and that second could have changed. So every time you run this, it would basically, it would never, to me, it would never say that my host is active, because it's looking at it like at that right second, right then and there. Because you see, this has already changed to '07, and now it's '08. It's never catching up, so it's never going to be able to be shown as active.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yep. So I would probably do something more along the lines of, and this is okay, but I would do more something really, really simple. So T stats count where host equals, I don't know, let's say Richino star by underscore time, right? Where I gotta do x equals star 2 and RICHINO. Why don't I see anything? RICHINO, yes, all right. I know there's data in here. It's super, super weird. All right, so let's do. Oh, no, still. That's probably why. There's no host called Richino. That's my bad. There we go. All right. So I would do something more like along the lines of this and run this for like 15 or whatever minutes. And then if the count is less than 1 or something like that, save as an alert. And then down here, your trigger condition, number of results.
But I thought we were looking for like a specific host.
Yeah.
I thought that was a question.
Yeah. So right now, let's do host equals to. Which was your roast again? Let's do. I could find that out anyway.
You said what's my what?
I can find out your host. It's somewhere like so. Yeah. So this yours right here. So if we want to do this, right? So we're host equals to by underscore time. It's fine. Then here we see this is a count of events by Richard's host. So same thing here. If you see the count is less than a certain number you're expecting, typically you will have to gauge it. So what I typically would do is something like this, right? I would do chart some count host. And then I'll have to put host up here too. So that'll tell me Richino's laptop, how it's crap. And I want that. No. Stop giving me carousel. So give me no carousel. Give me this. All right, cool. So then this gives me like Richino's activity. So yeah, it's pretty consistent. You see, it goes for what, every 5 minutes, and then there's like a drop or so. Just every 5 minutes, 24, 10. Nope, it's actually not every 5 minutes. Don't know what that is. So this is 24 to 40 to 55.
So this is showing when the host stops receiving data.
Well, yeah, this is showing the event count. So the number of events as the host is sending it over time. So over the last 60 minutes. So what I would,
go ahead.
Yeah, what I would do is triage this and then try to get a baseline for this. So maybe you can even do an average count and then see what that average is. As I know, right? So
I'm just trying to see like when do you make an alert on when that host stopped receiving data?
Oh yeah. So after I baselined it and I say, okay, well, his events that I see, over time, just looking at it, not even like doing an average or anything, just looking at it, it's around like 300 events or so over, even if we're to do 15 minutes, we get at least an average of, you know, yeah, we get an average of like, let's see, every 15 minutes. So we get at least 7 events, right? At least minimum of 7 events. So to me, I would do something as like this alert where the number of results are less than 7 or something like that. Or you can do like a custom field or something like that where, count less than 7 or something. And then if you do it this way, then it will trigger every time that it'll see that this is less than 7 over the last 15 minutes. If we're looking just for like truly missing, then I would literally just say number of results is less than 1, equal to 0, something like that, and then that would trigger if it sees it just based on that.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah, that's usually the way I set my alerts, but there's other folks do it based upon different ways. Somebody else had like a lag thing as well. So one thing you can do, which is another great dashboard, you can create a dashboard for lags to see when your host is lagging, and then you can actually click on that host that's lagging, port it to a new dashboard, and then see how that host has been reporting over the last whatever X amount of days to see if that lagging is true and whatnot. All right. So any questions about that part so far? I get into the last piece. All right. So the last piece was KV store. So the question I asked was, where is it? Give me 5 use cases of a Splunk CSV lookup. Give me 2 cases of a KV store lookup. What's the main difference between a KV versus a CSV lookup? So, Timmy, are you here? Is that Timmy here? Is he gone? Looks like he might have dropped. Yeah, Timmy dropped. Okay. So, so Timmy wrote these, but I wanted more of an explanation. So if a customer asks you this, or you get this in an interview question, HTTP codes. So if you're talking about static HTTP codes, yes. If you're talking about dynamic codes as it comes in and it's changing and stuff like that, anything dynamic would use KV store. So you would have to be very specific on what HTTP codes you're using and whatnot. And if you're using the generic, standard HTTP codes, or if you're using like some other codes that you have augmented based upon like how you respond on your application. Client customer information. This is a good example for a CSV if that information is static, if customers' addresses don't change or stuff like that, and other things on there are pretty static. But it could be a bad use case if you have like 10,000 customers, right? You don't want to use a static file for 10,000 customers. That's you want to use something that's KV, because you don't. The thing about KV, which leads me to my next question, versus CSV. KV lives on your search head. So when you run a query that uses a KV, that lookup table is not sent down to your indexers. It's basically grabbed locally. So it's pulled out of memory. It's used within the database, and then it says, hey, here we go. This is what we're looking for. Whereas a CSV is bundled into your Splunk bundle, and it sends that to your indexers. And depending on how big your CSV is, it's going to send that large CSV down to your indexers. So that's why it's usually best to use a KV when it comes to like large things like that, because it lives in memory, and memory can be pulled very fast. But not only that, it doesn't send that within the bundle to the indexers, because every one of your indexers need to get this bundle. It's not like, oh, let me do a select few indexers. Every indexer gets the bundle. It's only up to certain indexers now that have to respond to it based upon what the custom master says. It says, hey, you do this search or you do this. But every indexer gets the bundle that the search head sends. If it's in a cluster, everybody gets it. You get a bundle, you get a bundle, you get a bundle. Everybody gets a bundle. And then custom master says, hey, well, since everybody got the bundle, indexer one.
But that's based on the replication factor, right? So everybody could possibly not get the bundle, right?
No, everybody gets the bundle. Nope, everybody gets the bundle. So the search, you can tune your search artifacts that you're sending, but every indexer gets the bundle, because the thing is, what if one of your indexers is down, and the custom master says, hey, indexer 12, you do the search, and then indexer 12 will say, I'm not responding, I'm down, bro. So custom master then has to delegate some other indexer to do that job. So that's why everybody needs to get it. And then the custom master basically says, well, if this guy's down, I need somebody else to do the job for me. But you can blacklist what gets sent down to the search to the indexers, but everybody still gets the bundle though.
So are you saying anything static you use CSV and anything dynamic is KV?
Not anything. Not anything. Remember what I said, it depends on size as well. So
Okay.
if it's a small static file, more than likely you use and it also depends, right? It depends on what you're going for. If you're using a bunch of small KV store lookups, that's fine too. It just depends on your use case. So that's why I don't want us to just harp on, just like specific, like examples to say, okay, bank accounts, or, I would use a CSV, product pricing. Like, what's a use case behind it? Like, a customer says, hey, I have a bunch of HTTP codes that, sometimes they change from time to time because I'm getting this from an API input or whatever. I'm getting this from my data set that's going to be changing. So something like that would probably use a KV much better. But it also depends. If you say, I don't really care, just keep creating a new lookup, just append this to a new lookup, and just create a new CSV, or not create these, but overwrite what's in my current CSV. I don't mind sending a 2 meg file down to my indexers. So it all depends, on what the use case is. But in general, if it's a static file that's small, more than likely you want to use a CSV. And if it's a dynamic file at all, you may more than likely want to use a KV. If it's a dynamic file that's big, you more than likely want to use a KV. Big is also relative too. Anything that's more than 1,000, 2,000 rows, I would probably say, you want to use a KV for sure.
So as far as the replication factor part goes, so if it's a CSV, it's it doesn't matter. It's going to be replicated across all indexers.
Yeah, everything's going. Now, are you talking about like the indexer RF and SF?
Yeah.
Yeah, so the indexer RF and SF is just between the indexers. It's just saying sharing the buckets. It's not with the search bundle. We're talking about the search bundle here. What
search bundle? Okay.
Yeah. So whatever the search head sends down to say, hey, I ran this query on the search head. Now I need you to come up with the data for me.
Gotcha. Okay.
All right. Any questions about this at all, guys? Mercy, are you here? Elvis, Clovis? You guys aren't sleeping?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay. Is this making sense? You guys are getting this? No issues.
Yeah, yeah, I'm following. Just again, it's gonna need a lot of practice.
Okay. Okay. Mercy.
Yeah, I'm here.
And Clovis, you're good too.
Yeah, man. I'm waiting when you come back after your 1 year. I'm going to still follow you, bro. Trust me.
Cool. All right. Well, yeah. Tonight we did a lot. So I'm excited that we only have 2 weeks left. I'm excited for me because I get a little bit of break, but I'm also excited that you guys will be able to practice a lot more with this stuff. This is not a thing of just watch videos and you'll be good. You got to practice this daily. Um, I mean, interview questions will come up with a lot of this stuff. If you can explain how a bundle replication works and how, I mean, these are like advanced level stuff that you know, you learn, how the bucket tiers is made up. Where does the bucket, breakdown happen? What's inside of a bucket? Like explaining these things are very advanced level stuff that I know a lot of advanced engineers that haven't gotten jobs because they can't explain these things. And I know others who have gotten jobs that are like very, mid or junior level, but they know one specific thing about Splunk and they write that down, they drill into it. So you can literally get jobs off of like knowing stuff like this and ask yourself questions. If Splunk is down, how does my data, what happens to my index if Splunk goes down? What happens to my search head if, my indexer is not responding to it? So things like that are stuff that you should be asking yourself, what, uh, what errors do I see? What I see in my internal logs? Where do I search for those logs? So things like that are stuff you should constantly ask yourself and ask in this class to say, hey, if my server's down, what is Splunk going to say about it? What is it going to do? And how do I know what it does? Where do I go on the monitor console to go see that? What logs is the monitoring console? Because it's monitor console essentially just a dashboard, a bunch of dashboards built for you. They still use the data that you have in your logs, but it's just dashboards. That's all it is. This is made to look at dashboards that you see internally. It's all logs that you have access to, and it's up to you to build that out.
I had a question, Shar. So I know at the end I was, for that KV store questionnaire, could you explain, I guess, the reasoning behind? Because I know I said, KV stores are, you're able to, store more rows or have, a larger table in the KV store compared to the CSV.
Mm-hmm.
Could you explain further on that? Or
Yeah.
You said you wanted to, you would kind of talk about that a little bit more.
Right. So it's what I said earlier in terms of like the memory piece, because imagine you're sending something down to the indexer. It needs to go down based on a port, right? So whatever replication port you've identified, it needs to send down to a replication port, and then the indexer needs to bundle that up, gets the search to get custom master needs to tell, hey, you do this search. Now everybody's good. Send your search up. Because it basically waits for everybody to send their search up before it completes it. It's not like, hey, I'm gonna do this partially. I'm gonna do this. It's everybody's sending their stuff, but it's still getting processed as it's getting it. So all that stuff is time and it's processing. So as your indexer is getting the data sent up, and it's your search head's reading it, it's taking time. And if you're now processing a large lookup or you're processing a lookup in general in memory, we all know how much faster memory is than disk. If you don't know, memory is much faster than your disk space. So if you are using, SSD or whatever type of storage you have, regardless of how fast it is, whatever you have in your RAM, your random access memory for your computer, it's going to be much faster. So it's just like you load up different programs. Once it's loaded up into memory, it spits that out. It gets that out so much faster. So imagine you writing something down and then grabbing that stuff from what you've written down and then processing it into your mind versus already memorizing that stuff and telling somebody where it's at. So maybe that's a bad example.
So it comes down to the memory part. So that instead of the search head having to pull down from the indexers, is really just is grabbing it from the memory on the search head and just being able to spit it out.
Yep. So
okay.
Yeah. So processing is the one part. And then the second part is also functionality as well. So when it comes to optimizations, so all of your search heads have to have that bundle across the board in a cluster, right? So as you're sending a search that's coming from, blah, blah, it needs to be synced up across the board. And if there's any deltas in between, depending on how that's sent, that delta is also going to be sent down as well. So when you're now doing that in memory, you don't have to worry about that as well, because that delta is no longer an issue that you have to think about or worry about. It's now doing all of those differences in memory to be able to route that. And then the last piece, and there's probably more, but for me, I would say the last piece, where I would use a KV versus a CSV, is in terms of like storage space, right? So storage, your CSVs and whatnot, they need to have storage that they're gonna live on. Whereas when that stuff is stored in memory, it's short-lived, dies, comes back up, puts it in memory, and whatnot. So that's also something you gotta look at storage-wise. If you're sending a whole bunch of like large, CSVs down to the indexer, you're gonna have to, think about storage as well, where that's gonna be. You may think, okay, well, this is not that much, but then if you're sending a bunch of searches that have a bunch of CSVs, and you have like 1,000 users or even 200-300 users, and maybe they're all running the same search, and that search is using that same CSV. It's especially for like SOC. A lot of SOC folks, they open dashboards, and those dashboards that run have to send the same exact search artifacts down to the indexer. And that's going to take up that storage space there on the indexer until it gets reaped out.
Gotcha. Okay.
All right. It's 11:30 now, so I think I'm going to let you guys off the hook to take a nap. Next class, we only have 2 more weeks left. We're going to be going through a few more searches, and then some troubleshooting front end. So we're going to look at like some of the internal logs. We're going to finish up the monitor console, of course. We're going to look up the internal logs and how to troubleshoot when data is not coming, when to look at the buckets, how to, create like a troubleshooting dashboard and stuff like that, so that you can have that for yourself at your job, and be able to utilize that to triage your environment. But that is all for tonight. Any questions? Man, you guys never have questions.
Yeah, the Friday class you were talking about, you will send out the link, right?
Yes. That one, trying to think. So that one, if you guys are in a Splunk, I know that's $10 per person for that class. I'm trying to think if I want to give you guys that free, since you guys are already taking my class. That's front end related. Yeah, you guys are taking my class. It's free. Don't worry. Since you guys already paid for this, I'll send out the link in the Splunk. It's just going to be straight Smart Store. related stuff. It would be about 30 to 45 minutes. I'll take you through the setup, what I've done. If you have questions, feel free. Okay.